Hi students, welcome to HSC Earth and Environmental Science and Module 8 on Resource Management. This is our penultimate video, number 22, and we're going to be looking a little bit in this video at protection. What's the protection? Well, we can investigate the processes used by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as sustainable resource managers. For example, legislation and actions to protect significant areas of country and place. Over the past 30 to 40 years, Australia has enacted a number of pieces of legislation that are designed not just to recognise the Indigenous people, the First Nations people in this country, but also to recognise the connection that they have with the land. And so that's one of the things that we want to try and focus on in this video. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Heritage Protection Act in 1984 can protect areas and objects that are of particular significance to Aboriginal people. This act allows the Environment Minister, on the application of an Aboriginal person or group of people, to make a declaration to protect an area or an object or class of objects from a threat of injury or desecration. Other Commonwealth laws regulate aspects of Indigenous heritage, including the export of Aboriginal objects and the recognition of Aboriginal land rights and native title. This includes things like the Protection of the Movable Cultural Heritage Act, 1986, the Aboriginal Land Rights in the Northern Territory Act of 1976, and the Native Title Act of 1993. Indigenous Australians have managed the country for tens of thousands of years. We've talked about how long they've been in this country. Indigenous protected areas are areas of land and sea country owned or managed by Indigenous groups, which are voluntarily managed as a protected area for biodiversity conservation through an agreement with the Australian government. This is about protecting Indigenous heritage, and generally Australian state and territory governments are responsible for the protection of Australia's Indigenous heritage places. All states and territories have laws that protect various types of Indigenous heritage. The Commonwealth is responsible for protecting Indigenous heritage places that are nationally or internationally significant or that are situated on land that's owned or managed by the Commonwealth. This protection operates under the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. This particular act, which was established in 1999, establishes the National Heritage List, which includes natural, Indigenous and historic places that are of outstanding heritage value to the nation. Under this act, there are penalties for anyone who takes an action that has or will have a significant impact on the Indigenous heritage values of a place that's recognised in the National Heritage List. The Act also establishes the Commonwealth Heritage List, which includes places on Commonwealth lands and waters or under Australian government control that have Indigenous heritage significance. In addition, the Act protects heritage on Commonwealth land from actions undertaken by the Commonwealth. Indigenous protected areas are an essential component of Australia's National Reserve System, which is a network of formally recognised parks, reserves and protected areas across Australia, and some of these we talked about in the last video. As well as protecting biodiversity, Indigenous protected areas deliver cost-effective environmental, cultural, social, health and well-being and economic benefits to Indigenous communities. Indigenous protected areas protect cultural heritage into the future, provide employment, education and training opportunities for Indigenous people in remote areas. There are currently 75 dedicated Indigenous protected areas across approximately 67 million hectares. These account for more than 45% of the National Reserve System's total area. The Indigenous Protected Area Program was established in 1997 to support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to choose when, where and how they will manage their own country, combining traditional knowledge with Western science. We're slowly becoming better able to recognise the value of Indigenous knowledge, the way that it can be shared and also archived, so that we can benefit from this knowledge well into the future. Unfortunately, there have also been a number of cases in the history of this country where Indigenous knowledge has been acquired, often for commercial benefit, and sometimes at significant cost to the original populations that were in those areas, perhaps even the groups that shared that information and that knowledge in the first place. This is why laws are a critical part of this whole area of sustainability and working in with the people who know country the best. Thanks for watching.